Let's go to James, and then I'll fight you.
Hey guys, thanks for letting me talk. A scientific fact is rare earth ain't rare. We have mines in the USA that we can turn on higher. It's just rare
Hmm.
earth is just another fighting supply. Like they try to get rid of our steel for a while, lower energy. Like I always say, they fight for our army of the future, not our army of today. Right? We've already talked about that. It's like StarCraft. If you destroy your economy, you can't rebuild forces, and they just take it out. Right? I'm not going to talk about that, but I know a lot of people think oil is the reason we get in all these wars. Well, that's just another way of waging war, right? For a long time, we tried to starve Iran out of oil. We had a 50-year agreement with presidents. Our presidents all agreed that starving Iran is the safest way to not interfere with them. We didn't want to actually hurt Iran for like a long time, right? We wanted to peacefully let them run out of oil, and the terror threat globally would be gone. But Obama and Biden changed that by giving them all that money, arming their soldiers to raise more hell in North Africa. We drained our oil supply under Biden and enslaved ourselves over OPEC, and we just literally became their slaves on purpose because apparently they're banging hookers in Dubai and shit or whatever reason they had, right? So oil isn't the reason we're in this. I'm going to uncapture a bunch of minds who think oil was it, right? This is time to sober up, everybody. We used to make fun in the Middle East, the terrorists being all weak. Oh, our tanks are so much greater than theirs, right? But if you don't, if you don't know what's going on in Europe, they like Islam conquered every single country in Europe. Yeah, Islam is like the king, ruler, emperor of every single country in Europe, and they didn't bring any tanks or planes in there. They just brought in illegals, right? So they fight like gangs. Like against their internals, okay? You ever hear of how drug lords escape Mexican prisons? El Chapo got out of Mexican prisons like twice in the early 2000s. So what happens is, well, the drug lords' gang members are not in jail. The drug lords' gang members are not in jail. They talk with the Mexican president or his family. Hey, we friends. We in the same parties. We go to the same parties with each other. Our kids play with your kids. I think you made a mistake. You put our mutual friend in prison. You made a mistake, right? And then the president's like, man, they're gonna kill my kids. They're gonna kill my family members if I don't let the drug lord out, right? So it's called bribe threats, and they talk about this in the highest levels of American government. My man James O'Keefe, who exposed bioterrorism and the human trafficking, Big Mig show. I'm talking about everybody in government, CIA, FBI. They know about bribe threats. I mean, like think about it. You own like Microsoft. Let's say you own Microsoft, right? And you didn't have any security, and they could run protection racket on you, like they did in New York City, right? They come up, hey, why don't you just, hey, Mr. Bill Gates, why don't you just give us all your money? Oh man, I should have thought about having a security thing, right? What happens is nations are just like that, right? They run down nations by bribe threatening every level of the nation, right? So if you don't know this, you better know this. These are the countries that got conquered and are ruled by Islam: Austria, Belgium, Bulgaria, Croatia, Cyprus, Czechia, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, France. France is a pretty big country. You would think that wouldn't fall to Islam. It did. Germany fell to Islam. Greece has fallen to Islam. Ireland, Italy, the home of the Rome and all that stuff, and Sistine Chapel. It's fallen to Islam. It's ruled by Islam. Latvia, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Malta, Netherlands. That's a pretty big country. Portugal, Romania, Slovakia, Slovenia, Spain, Sweden. And UK is also fallen to Islam. You might think, well, Jim, I never heard that before. Well, you're not paying attention to the news. Islam comes in, bribe threats people. Canada has been annexed by the UK. Canada used to be owned by the United Kingdom way back, and then they got their own freedom somewhere in the mid 1900s. But UK has taken back Canada because Canada is ruled by Islam. All these people are falling to Islam. In the United States, you notice the mayor is now Islam, native New York's Islam. You notice Minnesota Islamic is doing fraud, and no one really apparently cares. Virginia senator is Islam, and it wants to take away your guns, right? So it's coming to America, and it works like this. When your officials are bribed, it doesn't matter you have guns. They're going to bring you to jail. I mean, they're going to bring you to court and put you in jail because it ends up what happens is your police become favoritism to the, the Muslims, and your judges, we've already seen it, letting people out like they have 70 felonies, right? So don't think America is not going to get captured. Don't think we're too big to sink. We're like the Titanic right now. And if you don't think the Muslims owning all of Europe is a bad thing, well, they're trying to outlaw censor. They're trying to censor us in America even more. You pay attention, and it's working. They're censoring places left and right of what we can and can't say in America, right? And it's even worse. And this is what you should be really sad about. There's like hundreds of thousands of once free like European women dragged into rape dungeons, never to be seen again. And if someone rapes or murders someone on the street, they don't even go to jail there. But if you speak out against it, you go to jail, right? So this is the dystopia we're living in. Trump is fighting back in World War III the best way he can by striking the people who fund this. But I'm not sure we can even win. I mean, the war isn't something we started. It's something we're just finally fighting back. And this went all the way back to 98 when Hong Kong went sovereign and China united with the left. And it gets really detailed, but like, man, if you're not for like Trump liberating Iran, even the Iranians love it. People all around the world want this totalitarianism stuff to go away. You know, Iran killed like 20 million people. I want to get on to the chaining and the enslaving and the sending the organ harvesting over the 50 years they've done this. But yeah, even here in Somalia, Sudan, Chad, Libya, you hear all those names up there in Ethiopia, all the hell is going on. That's all Islamic terrorists from Iran going over there and raising hell, man. I don't even understand. I mean, I just glad I can spread information that all of Europe, except Poland and Hungary, have fell in World War III. And the reason Poland didn't fall in World War III is that they won't let Islamic people into their nation. And Hungary didn't fall because they have laws that you can't be Islamified there, right? In America, if we don't do something against Islam, they will conquer us. We're close to, completely sinking. And I want everyone to understand that because back in the day, we thought, oh, these terrorists in the Middle East, they're so weak to our tanks. They don't need tanks to conquer you, man. That's how the drug lords do it. All right, man. I'm out.
Yeah, well, I mean, let me go over a few different points you mentioned. Rare earths not being rare, that's sort of true and not true. I mean, I think yes, there is a lot of rare earth stuff around, and there are mines in the US that, in theory, could mine that stuff. But up until recently, no one has been willing to do that mining because it's basically been prevented by regulations. And I think Trump has done away with a lot of that and he's encouraging a lot of that. I'm not sure if he's gone as far as doing the Defense Production Act stuff, but he is opening up some of those mines and trying to get that started. But that's a slow process. It's something that takes a long time and has a lot of environmental impact that I'm sure people will be complaining about and fighting in the courts for a while. And it'll take a long time to work through all that to the point where you can actually say, we've actually reached the point where we have our own supply of all of these things. So I think it's a longer term fix that hopefully will happen, but I think it's going to take probably years to get to the point where we could say, okay, we don't need China's rare earths anymore because we have our own. We have it in the ground, but it's going to take many years to the point where we can actually use it or say that we have control over it and we have enough of it that we don't really need to worry about whether or not China is going to cut it off at some point. Um, you mentioned people fighting like gangs. I think that definitely is an element, as well as just having lots of factions within Iran. I know you were probably talking about other stuff, not just Iran, but there are all these, like, there's Kurds, there's little, Shiites and Sunni Muslims, and there's different factions within Iran. I think there's even some concern that the result of this Iran war might be that they'll split into these different regions or factions and that the borders might change. And I think Trump even said something along those lines that the borders in Iran might look different when we're done, which means he's kind of anticipating we might not even have a single Iran country with the same borders that we see today, that it might end up splitting into a whole bunch of little things that might be along those ethnic lines or religious lines. And so it's a possibility that it could be that there's going to be a whole bunch of countries that make up what used to be Iran. Um, I don't know how that's going to work out, but and it may be destabilizing if it does happen, because I'm guessing if that does happen, then those elements would end up fighting each other and trying to regain control of the rest of Iran. So we'll have to see how that works out. But I think the ideal outcome would be that there's one leader that keeps it all together, that is friendlier to their neighbors and friendlier to Israel and friendlier to the United States. But I find that kind of unlikely. I mean, maybe we will get some kind of regime change. That's maybe the optimistic case. But having true peace in the Middle East and having everyone get along with each other is kind of a stretch, in my opinion.
Yeah. So
Um,
when it comes to the destructuring of Iran, Turkey already showed interest in stepping off some of the borders because there's two classical ways in military of conquering another nation that you don't like. We don't traditionally you don't rebuild their nation, give it back to them. Like Iraq was a anomaly that was just to make BlackRock have more money. The two ways of doing it is you assassinate the leader, you take out the leader with war and destruction over and over again until their people don't want destruction anymore. That's the second way of conquering people. The number one way of conquering people is obviously just take out their leader and then you rule, right? America doesn't want to be, was it imperialistic? We've never wanted to be imperialistic. This whole notion that they get propaganda that America's imperialistic. Well, we'd have had South America by now. We'd have had a lot of, like I said, the Middle East by now. We're not imperialistic, right? We want other people to have freedom. We're trying to export freedom and be the good guys. But no matter how much we want to be the good guys, we're going to be told we're not. So we don't want to conquer them. So I think that what we're going to do is we just keep taking out the leader until they're bruised and battered. And it's like, why are we even fighting anymore, right? I think that's where it's going to end up going. But I also see America going to probably turn imperialistic. Our best way of winning this World War III, as we see Islam taking over a lot of countries, is becoming slightly imperialistic. We don't want a war, but if people fight a war with us, we should take away their toys. So we took away Greenland, Venezuela. I think we should take out some of the South American drug lord-owned countries, in my own personal opinion, because if there's no countries ruled by drug lords, then the good civilized countries could crack down on those drug lords. I'm not saying we should acquire Iran, obviously. I think they're doing right by taking out the leadership. But no, the two classic ways of taking out military is to just keep taking out the bad guys until they don't want to do war anymore, or you conquer it. Now, with the rare earth
mhm.
stuff, you tariffs is one way of protecting your own industry. All countries have tariffs. I've been a fan of tariffs for 40 years of my life. I saw it would have saved a lot of blue collar jobs like truck drivers and steel workers if we would have just put tariffs on our stuff. And there's actually mathematical formulas. When if your industry used to be a peak industry in the world and it gets down low, as a low industry in the world, but it's still a big thing in the industry in the world. A lot of times, foreign industries are either undercutting you illegally, like they did with steel dumping with Mao in China, or they're just producing better. Either way, you still want to protect your industries with tariffs. That's a way of so your industry doesn't go away completely. Like we saw back in the day, a lot of wars people didn't have like the weapons or the industry that other nations had. But if they would have protected it, they would have had it. Like they're trying to get rid of steel. A lot of people were worried we were going to lose steel. Well, with tariffs, we wouldn't have lost steel. Like it's just like the rare earth. So I like that economy stuff. It's no big deal. I just think the public's perception on what is tariffs should not be that's bad. That's bad because every country has tariffs. And the reason we don't have tariffs because our politicians are bribed, not necessarily threatened for this stuff, but bribed to have no tariffs. So if there's going to be lucrative to another country, they can pay you big to make it keep it lucrative, right? And then I think they're just putting money into the media to make people stupid that think tariffs are a bad thing. But yeah, with the rare earth, that's tariffs, and with the war, it's either take out the leadership until a good leadership comes out, or or a neutral leadership comes out, or you conquer it. All right, thanks for letting me talk again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with tariffs, I mean, it is kind of interesting to me that I think Trump has proven all the economists wrong with tariffs. Like everybody was predicting that our prices would skyrocket and that US consumers would be footing the bill for 100% of it and that we'd have massive inflation and it would just be a horror story. And I think we're well beyond the point where you can say that never happened. Like, it just didn't. I mean, maybe it was absorbed partly by the importers or exporters. Maybe it was absorbed partly by the companies. But largely speaking, it was a relatively small percentage of inflation. I mean, the inflation rate is still very low and it has stayed low long enough that you can say, okay, it wasn't just an anomaly that for a few months, like, I mean, there was a story about how all the importers and exporters like did some surge to get ahead of the tariffs and get a bunch of inventory into the United States so that they wouldn't have to pay them for a few months. And so it was legitimate to say maybe we need to wait and see what happens when all that inventory runs out. But all that inventory ran out and we haven't seen that inflation. And so I think Trump has proven, I think, to the world that tariffs are not. the horror story
Yeah.
that all these
Well,
economists made it out to
you
be.
want to know what the true? There's an actual mathematical equation for economists on tariffs. It says the largest consumer nation always wins the tariffs war, right? The largest consumer nation always wins the tariffs war. I've been always pro tariff, especially for America, because the reason the largest consumer nation always wins the tariff war is because the other people have more to lose. You know, if we're not consuming their goods, they have more to
Hmm.
lose because we're the importer, they're the exporter. So they're basically, with Trump being the art of the deal guy. You know, I'm not like I'm smart. You know, you know me. I'm a no IQ. One of the very few people ever lived that's a no IQ. I've invented a bunch of stuff. I'm really smart, but I'm nowhere near the level of Trump and his way of using negotiation. So give Trump the top negotiation power, and he's going to negotiate America even a higher stance. You know, so they should lay off Trump. We have a guy with a superpower, and you're trying to like hold him back from using it, right? No, that's the art of the deal
Yeah.
guy, and the the biggest consumer nation always wins. So I saw that a win coming a long way off.
Yeah, I mean that's been the story with Trump since day one of his first term, where at first it was even his own party trying to hold him back, and then they tried to hold him back with impeachments. They tried to hold him back with all these fake investigations and testimony in Congress and all these bogus things. Obviously all the lawsuits, all the lawfare, all the criminal cases, and even now we're seeing a lot of resistance to the Save America Act, and pretty much everything Trump wants to do, it's being fought in the courts. It's being challenged every step of the way. Some of it might just be to slow it down, but a lot of it is to try and prevent it from ever happening. And I think, largely speaking, most of the time, Trump, when he has won those battles, ends up having a positive result for the country.
Yep.
And
They tried to
so it's
impeach him the very first day he got inaugurated, right? He did nothing. Why are you impeaching the guy? He
mhm,
didn't do anything, right?
yeah.
It's
And there's
at this.
already stories about, if Democrats take control of Congress in the midterms, that they're going to go after companies and go after pretty much everybody that cooperated with Trump. And so they're looking to punish him again and try and prevent anything from happening for his last 2 years in office.
Yep, Scott Adams said his goal in life was to destroy the Democratic Party because the Democratic Party is trying to destroy America. We talked about the broad threat people earlier that took over all of Europe and Canada. The broad threat people are operating through the Democratic Party. They're Team World Economic Forum, like they hug each other hand in hand, like the 66 trillion GDP
Yeah.
that goes through World Economic Forum. It's flowing in America like as a laser target because like when you play Risk, you put all the guns and tanks at this place. But we talked about how World War III is not being fought with tanks and guns so much, but bribes and threats. Well, when all the other countries go down and they're focusing on us, and it's no longer a game because everybody knows Klaus Schwab, Bill Gates, and Mr. Al Gore and Yuval Harari and John Kerry, and all those names are in the WEF. You can look up all the corporations involved. They're afraid, man. They push COVID and stuff, and they're putting what they put money in the Congress in 2020. They're putting a lot more money in the bribe threats right now. It's looking bad out there. Know how the World War III is fought, man.
Yeah, well, the one tweak I would put on that is I think there's probably almost just as much of that going on in the Republican Party as there is with the Democratic Party. I don't think it's just Democrats.
Oh
There's
yeah,
a lot of it,
they're
and
taking
probably
bribes
more
too.
of it.
Rhinos.
But I think, all the lobbying, all the various deals where family and friends are benefiting from rebuilding Iraq to whatever else is going on in the world, it's all over the place. And I'm sure is a lot of blackmail going on along with that, to say, I have this secret about you, and unless you vote this way or do this thing for me, I'm going to expose you. And so I think it's kind of pervasive across our whole government. All right, thanks. Let's give Chris another try.